Hello, everybody. I'm back. Most of you probably didn't notice I was gone since not a lot of people right now are watching my videos, but it's been a while since I put up a video just because I've been busy. I've been actually kind of under the weather lately. I even woke up today feeling a little odd, but right now I feel well enough to make a video, and now that I've had some time to recuperate, I thought I'd come back and do another video. So I had a topic that I wanted to talk about, and I don't intend for this to be like an advice channel, just more of a maybe you can glean some wisdom from me talking about my experiences or just get some comfort of knowing you're not alone from my experiences. So, but maybe this video could be somewhat educational. So, the topic I came up with was things that, how would I put this? Basically, some experiences I've had with friends, which I feel like in looking back were red flags, and I should have maybe reconsidered some of those friendships. I just to give a little background, I grew up always being a bit socially awkward, as I've discussed before. With undiagnosed autism, or what I believe is undiagnosed autism, which is still today officially undiagnosed. But just I always had trouble fitting in. I always had trouble socially, and on top of that, I had a family where, let's just say, my parents often treated me like my feelings didn't matter, or that if there was something I wanted, it was me being selfish, or that kind of thing. So I was used to kind of just being bullied and made to feel like I shouldn't have my own desires or my own needs. So I think that after being kicked around like that, people who are jerks, they kind of instinctively sense those things about people, and they know how to take advantage of people like that. So that was the situation that I found myself in. But anyway, I'm going to talk about a certain circle of friends that I had back when I was in college. And for about a year, this is sort of my primary friend group. Although looking back, I feel like these friends, I wonder how true these friends really were. And I actually wrote down a list of some things that I consider to be friendship red flags. And, if you can relate to any of these, feel free to leave a comment and talk about them. And I'm sure I could probably think of other examples if I tried, but I came up with 3 things at least that I wanted to talk about and that I can give examples of. So, the first thing I consider a friendship red flag is what I call excluding you to your face. Now, I don't know if the meaning of that is intuitive or if it needs to be explained, but I'll basically give an example to describe what I mean by excluding you to your face. So, one time I had a friend, in fact, I talked about him in another video. I gave him the pseudonym Jake. And so Jake and I were sitting in the school cafeteria, and we weren't really talking much or anything, but we just kind of happened to be there at the same time and just sat at the same table because we were dorm friends. And then this other friend of ours, he came up to the table and told Jake that, I don't remember the specifics, but there was something that they were doing and they needed a certain number of people for it. And he's like, "Hey, I just got word from so-and-so. He can't do it." And he's like, "What? Well, who else can we get?" And he was like really upset that this guy had bailed on them. He's like, "Well, there's no one else we could ask." And I was sitting there thinking, "Hey, I'm right here. He's probably going to look at me right now and ask me if I want to do this thing." But guess what? He didn't. He excluded me right to my face. They're saying, "Hey, what about John?" And he's like, "No, I don't want John. He's not right for it." And he's like, "Well, this is terrible." He was like so frustrated just that there was nobody they could get. Who could we possibly ask? And all the while I'm just sitting right here hearing this whole thing. And he didn't even ask me. Now, again, I'm not saying that it's possible I didn't want to do the thing. In fact, I remember thinking, I don't know if this thing they're talking about is something I want to do, but the fact that they need somebody and I'm right there and they didn't ask me, it kind of tells me right to my face that they don't want me. So that kind of hurts. And another example of this I could give is one time the same group of friends, we were getting together at the house of these 2 guys who were part of our circle, and we were going to go out somewhere. And there was this friend of ours who, I don't want to give him too many specifics, but let's just say he revealed a certain thing about himself that most of us were not aware of. And it was kind of shocking. However, I had not been privy to this particular information. So the other four people there were all talking about this thing in euphemisms, and they were leaving me out of the conversation. I was like, "What do you talk about?" And in fact, one of the guys, who's a complete jerk, and I kind of hate him looking back, he's like, "Excuse me, you're not part of this conversation. This is between us." And so they're sitting here talking about this thing, and like, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, when I found out, I was so surprised. I mean, there was that time that blah blah blah, and I didn't think that, and it was just like, you are. I'm sitting right here. I'm standing right here. You guys are having a conversation, and you were deliberately excluding me from it, and I'm standing right there. Like, that is just incredibly rude. And the fact that they would do something like that, if you have friends who do that to you, that's their way of telling you that you're not important enough to them, that they can even consider your basic humanity or your feelings, or that you might want to be included in what they're doing. Because, just to be clear, I'm not saying that your friends are obligated to include you in everything they do, because sometimes maybe it's something that they don't want you for, maybe it's something they want to do without you. I'm not saying that I'm entitled to participate in their things. All I'm saying is it's just common respect to not exclude people or leave people out of the conversation when they're right there. And supposedly this is a social situation. It's like telling them right to their face, "We don't want you." And that's just kind of, that doesn't make people feel good. So, you know, if you have somebody that is in your presence and you don't want to include them in the thing, just have some common sense and don't talk about it when they're right there, because it just reminds them of how left out they are. So yeah, that was number one that I wrote down: excluding you to your face. Number two, this is a bit more obvious: showing no interest in what you want. So I remember I got frustrated with my friends because it seemed like, yeah, they'd let me hang out with them sometimes, but they would never ever do anything that I wanted to do. Like, if I wanted to do something, they never were really interested. And, I didn't have a car at the time, so I kind of had to rely on them to go out anywhere, but they didn't seem to want to do anything for me or with me. It was basically like, I'm just there to tag along and make them, keep them company, but like, what I wanted wasn't even part of it. And I remember one time even talking to Jake, and I said, and I was expressing frustration. I was like, "Well, you guys never do anything I want to do." And you know what he said? He says, "Well, that's life." And I didn't even know how to respond to that. But looking back, I should have said to him, "Well, is that how friendship works? That some people in the group just never get what they want, and that's it? Like, shouldn't friendship be about, give and take? Shouldn't it be about, each giving the other one what they want some of the time?" So if your friends never ever want to do anything that you want to do, I would question whether they're really your friends. And another example of this that I could give, which I wrote down here that I wanted to talk about, looking back, I can't believe this actually happened, but I remember it was my 21st birthday, and not that I wanted to go out and drink like some people do on their 21st birthday, but, it was my birthday, so I thought, hey, why don't I actually, we were kind of hanging around the dorm in the evening. I said, "Hey, it's my birthday. Do you guys want to do anything?" And they're all just kind of like, I don't know. So it's like, okay. So basically, it was just another day. We were just hanging around the dorm in the evening, and then this guy who wasn't in our dorm, he was kind of part of our circle. He didn't even live in the dorm. He just walked in there and he showed up. He's like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go do this. Come on!" And then they all just left and went with him and left me there all alone on my birthday. And it's like, okay, so when I said, "Let's do something for my birthday," you guys didn't want to do anything. But then this guy just shows up and says, "Hey, this is what we're doing. You all just follow him." If people do that to you, that means you rank very low with them. They do not respect you, that they do not hold you in high regard, that you're very low status among them. So just consider that. Yeah, your friends should not abandon you when you want to do something. They should at least show some interest in doing what you want to do some of the time. Another one I wrote down here is kicking you when you're down. Now, I feel like it should go without saying that anybody who kicks you when you're down is not your friend, but sometimes if you're used to being abused, if you're used to being kicked around, you just kind of tolerate that crap because that's what you think you're supposed to do. This is one that really gets me because every time I think about this incident, it makes me angry. So I had this friend. One day I was just feeling down about some things, and I was hanging out with him and this other guy, and I was kind of trying to open up a bit about how I was feeling down, and I just wanted to talk a bit. And this friend of mine, he kept making just smart alecky comments about stuff, and when I was trying to be serious, and finally I just said to him, "Look, do you have a problem with me?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do. I think you're too self-centered. You know, you sit and talk about your problems, but I, because this guy, well, he was not white. I won't say what race he was, but he was of a non-white race. He says, I have people come up to me and say, 'Get out of my country.' You don't have to deal with that." And I was like, "Well, sorry, but like, I have problems too." And he's like, "No, you're just feeling sorry for yourself. I have no sympathy for you." I remember him actually saying those words to me, and it made me so mad. And when I look back at that incident, I always think I should have said to him right then and there, "I thought you were my friend, but if you would talk to me this way, if you would treat me this way, you are clearly not my friend. So as this moment, I want nothing to do with you." I should have said that to him. I wish I had said it to him, but I didn't. I just took it because I was used to being kicked around my whole life. But I just want you to know, if you ever have a so-called friend who kicks you when you're down, who treats you like crap when you're already feeling bad, who makes you feel worse, that person is not your friend. That person is your enemy. That person is trying to destroy you mentally. The person is just an exploiter. And this guy who said that to me, like, I tried to help him in a lot of ways before. I tried to stick up for him when other people attacked him. I tried to, I tried to help him out with his homework, things like that. And then he never did anything for me. He just used me for companionship, but he didn't actually care about me. And every time I think about that guy now, I genuinely hate him. I genuinely couldn't care less if he's dead right now. I don't know where he is today. I didn't keep in touch with him, but I realized I want nothing to do with him. People like that are people you shouldn't have in your life. Anybody who would treat you that way is not a friend. And I know maybe I sound a little bit impassioned, but talking about these incidents with people who I considered friends, people who I tried to entrust with my emotions, I tried to open up to, I tried to be vulnerable with, and they just returned it with contempt, or they returned it with just, crappy jerk behavior. I have a lot of regrets about that. I wish that stuff had never happened, but it did. And all I can say is I think I've learned from it. And in the future, I don't think I'm going to tolerate anything like that from friends I have. But yeah, if you're watching this and you've ever experienced any of these things, feel free to talk about them. Uh, don't make the mistake I did of just putting up with this crap, because you really shouldn't. I mean, well, look, I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. If there's more, if these friendships are more complicated, if you have a history with these people and you don't want to just throw away friendships, that's fine. Like, I mean, you make that decision for yourself is all I'm saying. But all I'm saying is, if I ever see any of these things from people I consider friends, I'm going to strongly reconsider whether these people are people I want in my life. And I'm not going to just tolerate it like before. Don't make yourself a target for others. Don't let other people abuse you. Don't let other people take advantage of you. Don't let other people use you as just a person to validate their social standing, but in return give you nothing. So yeah, I don't want jerks for friends, and I'm not going to put up with jerks for friends anymore. So I hope this was helpful. Talk to you guys next time.